run our browser. So initially we have the scale of 1.5. Okay, so now let's go back to our VS Code and style the ball that is going to be inside of our project. So now let's do that. So I'm just going to pick up the ball inside the CSS here. So ball. So ball should initially have a background of white on default. Okay, so now I'm just going to say, because I don't want to use the var for this. So because when we click on our checkbox, we want the color of our container to change, so not the color of the checkbox itself. So we have to declare all this one by one. So let's do FFF for the background of our checkbox of our ball. So now the border radius of this one should be 50%. So I forgot to add the border radius to the other one, which is the label, but we are going to be doing that. So our border radius of 50%, and also position of these two should be relative. Should be absolute rather, so that all of them can be absolute to the label itself. So it is the label we declare as relative earlier. So we are going to display this as absolute. Okay, so we want the top should be 0, the left should be 2px. So now we want the height and the width of this should be the same thing, so that the border radius can make it a circle. So now we are going to say the height should be 17px, the width also should be 17px. The width should be 17px. So now this is where you should pay attention to. So now I'm going to add a translate to this one. So I'm just going to say transform translate. So it should translate this on the x-axis. So now I want to declare 0px for this. So initially when you check on it, this translate x translating to the x-axis will increase, so like 18px, which means from this 0px we want it to change the position of the 0px to like 18px. So I'm just going to add a little transition so that we can have some little animation in our checkbox. So now I'm just going to say transition for transform. So it should focus on the transform. So I'm just going to say 0.2 seconds. 0.2 seconds linear. Okay, so let's save this and run our code. Yeah, I think we have our box inside of our label. So I'm just going to add the border radius to this label. So I forgot that. Let's just go back there and add the border radius of 50px. So remember, 50px for border radius is different from 50%. 50% is just going to make everything a circle, but 50px is just going to have an arc between your elements. So I think that is that for the checkbox. Okay, so let's run this. Okay, so I think the ball is too high. Okay, now to make this ball be in the center, we just want to add a little to the top. I'll say like 2px. If 2px is not going to be too much, let's say 2px, and let's run this. I think that's too much. Let's do 1px. 1px should do this. Okay, yeah, so I think 1px should be enough. So let's save this and run it again. Okay, so now we have this button, but now it's not doing anything yet. We have to add it on check. So on check, now we have to start what is going to happen when we check on this checkbox. So now I'm just going to go down here right before the container and say the check class. So when it is checked, I want you to add the label and change the background of that label into another color. So when it is checked now, I want to add the class of label. Okay, so in the class of the label, I'm just going to say the background of label should turn to white. Okay, so let's save this and run our code and see if our checkbox is still working. So when I check on this, I have a white background, so we are not seeing this white ball that is inside of here because the color is also white. So now let's target that, which is the ball, and say on check you should target the ball too and change the background of the ball also. Okay, so now pay attention to this, guys, pay attention. So now when you check on the checkbox, so add the class of label, add the class of label and say the ball inside of the label should transform. Remember, we have a transform inside of our label too, that we declare the x-axis of it to 0. So now we're going to say the transform here on the x-axis should go to 18px. Okay, so that's what's going to move the ball from that 0px to the 18px. Okay, so now let's declare another background for this and say the background. I'm just going to declare a background for this again. So I do not want to use var because when we start using JavaScript to target the body of the root and the whole container, we do not want the var to apply to our switch button. So now I'm going to declare a color for this button itself. So now let's declare this. Let's use this color code 00838F. Okay, so when I save this and run this page, if I should check on this, the color changes. So now we have the toggle button. So the next thing we are going to be looking at is when we check on this checkbox, what should happen. So we want the background of this to change to like a dark color, and also this text, this H3, we want it to change to white, and this button we want it to change. So we are going to be doing all of that in the JavaScript part. So in the next video, I'm going to be showing you how we can change this checkbox, how we can use this checkbox to apply another background to this and also to change this text. See you in the next one.